Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Barcelona moved 10 points clear at the top of La Liga, this time making easy work of Sevilla. How did they do it? Where did Sevilla go wrong? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to briefly break down how Barcelona beat Sevilla. So before we get into today's video, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we're going to break down how both sides look to approach the game in the first half, where Sevilla were able to cause Barcelona some problems, and then look at how Barcelona were able to come from behind to win convincingly. But first, let's get to the starting lineups. We look at Sevilla, more of a 4-4-1-1. Ben Yedder ahead of Sarabia, out in the wider areas, Jesus Navas and Proms, and in midfield, Rogue, and they went with Banega. Then we move to Barcelona, more of a 4-3-3, no real surprises here. Coutinho, Messi, Suarez up front. In midfield, Rakitic, Arturo Vidal, and Sergio Busquets. So now let's get to the first half, see how both sides look to approach the game, and we'll start with how Sevilla were able to cause Barcelona some problems. So when we look at how both sides look to approach the game, 4-4-1-1 against more of a 4-3-3, what we did see was Sevilla here, they dropped off into two banks of four, which was expected. They played an additional center back in Mercado, and he was playing as a right back. And what happened here was that they didn't do a bad job. The one issue that they did have was that they conceded. There's a lot of space in between the pockets of the midfielder and the right-sided player, and the midfielder and the left-sided player. And Barcelona were able to find passes through that. And the other problem they did have is when they try to press from the front, sometimes they would have both Sarabia and Ben Yedder run to Ter Stegen, and Barcelona were able to play out of the back like that. But regardless, the way that they did set up was that they had Sarabia closer to Busquets, they had Yedder tracking the two center backs, and then here they were very much a 4-4-1-1. And when you think about that, they were trying to compress space between the lines, which was obvious, trying to really ensure that Messi and company weren't able to pick up the ball in between the lines and turn to goal to attack. But they basically, the way that Sevilla were set up was that they weren't really able to break down Barcelona when they sustained a lot of possession, because Barcelona themselves did drop off into two banks of four. Messi didn't really track back. With Suarez, they stayed up front, they pressed from the front, and they had Coutinho and they had Vidal pushing out into the wider areas to ensure that Wober and Mercado, who obviously isn't going to offer you much of an attacking threat despite scoring, were going to push forward. So that was how they were able to really cope with that. But the big problem here that Barcelona had was that they were struggling in the final third. Luis Suarez, despite working hard, he was misplacing passes, was very sloppy. Lionel Messi, when he was trying to find penetrative passes in the advanced zones, he wasn't connecting them. And the structure of the way that they set up didn't really help them at all, because you had Jesus Navas pushing back. Pushed back by Jordi Alba. You had here Coutinho, who wanted the ball all the time, but he often just dropped out to pull out Mercado and link play. So that was his main contribution to that. Yes, you're dragging out a marker, which kind of makes sense, because if you drag him out, you can get Jordi Alba to run him behind. But Navas did track him well. But that's what we saw from Coutinho. And then, with that being said, if you drag out Mercado and you have Navas push back, what happens here is that you could push Rakitic into that left-sided role, which we did see him do on occasions. And with Messi kind of tucking into the central zones, we often saw Arturo Vidal pushed out forward into that space there. So he was pushed out and often occupied by Wober. That being said, you have all those players pushed out of position. You have Busquets here, you have the left back there. And what ended up happening now was that they ended up struggling to kind of create chances. You had Semedo push forward as well. But when they pushed forward and they were struggling to create chances, there was always an outlet for Sevilla to break on the counterattack. And that often stemmed down the right side, where Jesus Navas was able to spin past Jordi Alba once Sevilla won possession. We look to one of their first opportunities, and it's Luis Suarez misplacing a pass when he drops off deeper, and it falls to Ben Yedder, who's able to hold off Sergio Busquets. And what he does is, once that ball falls into his feet, we see Jesus Navas take off, and we see Ben Yedder play a superb pass across the right channel for Navas to get onto, and he's looking to pick out Sarabia, and he's looking to pick out Proms into the box, but his cross through the box evades both. But again, we see how quickly they turn defense into attack, and that was a clear warning sign for Barcelona. But as the half wore on, we kind of saw more. What do we see next? We saw Coutinho dropping off a bit deeper, like I said, and he pulls out his marker and he tries to find a pass into Jordi Alba, running off Jesus Navas. And as he plays that pass, Navas does a good job to track it, and it ends up falling to Banega, and Banega now is able to pick up the ball, and he plays a pass across Busquets and across Rakitic. And as he plays that pass across them, it goes to Proms, and as Proms gets the ball, now what he's able to do is run and slide it out to that right channel again for Sarabia. And Sarabia is able to break free, and as Sarabia breaks free, Umtiti has to come across, and as Umtiti comes across, Sarabia tries to play the pass into Ben Yedder breaking into the box, but it's Piqué who gets across just in time. But again, like I said, just Barcelona not connecting their passes and quickly caught out of position because Alba's high. Rakitic, although he did shift there on occasion, wasn't there enough, and there was always a gap for Sarabia to break into because he was the spare man, or they could get Navas to spring ahead, and we'll continue this because that's how they were able to get their opener. And how did they get their opener? Well, what we see is Lionel Messi 1v1 with Proms, and this was one of the times where you could kind of see that, yes, Messi was struggling in the opening stages to find that final pass. He's 1v1 with Proms, and what we see here is we see Alba pushing deep, and he's dropping off, and Alba's sliding in to try and drag out Navas to get that diagonal pass, but Navas tracks him well. We have Coutinho who ended up pulling out Mercado. We have Rakitic in an advanced zone down the left. Actually, Coutinho ended up trying to run in behind Sergio Gomez and Proms to get the ball in right half space. Didn't happen. Vidal occupied by Wolber, and all those players are out of position. So what ends up happening now is that Messi misplaces his pass. We end up seeing Proms get it, and he slides the ball in between Busquets and Semedo for now Ben Yedder. So Ben Yedder gets the ball, and what happens there is as Yedder gets the ball, we see him drive forward, and as he drives forward, we see Sarabia kind of run across Piqué, and he drives towards goal, and who is it? Jesus Navas, who continued to run, and as he runs across goal, he slides the ball to Jesus Navas, who breaks into the box and fires a shot past the keeper. So you see what they're about. They were hitting them on the counterattack. That was pivotal. They had one other opportunity where you saw Banega from a deeper position get the better of Semedo, who was narrow, occupying Wolber, who had pushed forward. But with him pushing forward, you ended up having Proms, who came from a wide zone into that zone, and no one was picking him up. Ball over the top, he breaks forward. Piqué comes across, but Proms fires a shot over the net. And the final opportunity to the goal, we did see Sarabia try to press Ter Stegen, and this time he cleared it out to Banega. So Banega's able to win the ball, and with Banega winning the ball, we end up seeing Mercado push forward because Coutinho dropped off to try and get the ball. But as that happened, he continued to run forward. With Banega winning the ball, he slided it out to Navas, and with Navas there, we ended up seeing Rakitic, and we ended up seeing Jordi Alba right ahead of him. So with that happening, we see Banega try to make a run across those two runners. We see Sarabia dart into that channel, and the ball is clipped there. The ball is clipped to the right channel. We see Piqué come across, but no one is still picking up Mercado. Ball comes back up to him. Piqué tries to come across a bit too late in the half space. Shot fired past him. Coutinho never tracked his run going in. No one picked him up, and that was how they were able to get their 2 goals. So we saw where Sevilla was able to get their advantage in transition. Never really created thing when they sustained possession, but they were able to find countless opportunities down that right flank, and it's because Barcelona's structure was out of shape. So now let's get to what chances Barcelona created in the first half. See how they were able to get their opening goal, and we'll look to see if there was anything that they could fix going into the second half. So when we get to Barcelona in the first half, like I said, there wasn't really anything exciting about them because their movement and play was slow and pretty predictable. If Messi and Suarez weren't really on their game, this is where they struggle because we know what we're getting from Coutinho. We know that he's going to end up dropping off into space from the left-hand side to pull out his marker. We had Vidal a bit higher, like I said, but because Messi was tucked in, Wolber was able to occupy him. And then, like I said, they were trying to stop Busquets. Rakitic was in that battle in midfield as well. well. So that is kind of where Barcelona were, and nothing was really ticking for them, but they were able to find openings, and they were able to find that based off the fact that besides the one opportunity where they were able to get Alba to deliver a cross to the far post for Vidal getting over Wilbur, which looked like a decent ploy, pull Navas out, get Alba to deliver a cross, and get Vidal to tower over Wilbur at the far post. Besides that, they were really finding play through playing passes in between the forward line. You look to one of their first opportunities, it's Busquets deeper, and he started to pick up more freedom as the game wore on. He was able to play a pass to Rakitic in between the strikers. So the strikers were sitting off. He was able to find Rakitic dropping off a bit deeper. And then we saw Suarez kind of peel off Kjaer to find, and Rakitic was able to play the pass in between Mercado and Kjaer. Suarez peeled off him, but Kjaer tracked him well and was able to get in between that. So that was one way that they were really trying to go about their business. Suarez was often trying to drop off, trying to run in behind, but just lacking the touch and basically the proper play to continue his runs, and that was a big problem for him. Very sloppy, not really tidy on the ball. When we look to the way that they build up the goal, again, it kind of shows you what they're all about. It's Busquets again, and he's able to find Coutinho, who tucked in, and he was able to find him in between Rogue and Prom. So he plays it into him. Coutinho picks up the ball, nowhere to go, drops it off to Vidal. Vidal is then able to place a sideways pass into Messi, and this time Messi's able to split Mercado because he's a bit high, and Banega for Suarez. What happens there now is that Navas is pulled out of the game by Jordi Alba trying to make that darting run, and finally Rakitic occupies the space that's free because Mercado's taken out of the game. You have Navas track pulled back by Jesus, now by Jordi Alba. Suarez slides it over to Rakitic, and as they break into the box, he's able to locate Messi unmarked at the edge, and he side volleys a superb effort into the top corner. But that was kind of the issues. That was kind of the way to bypass that issue, because with Jordi Alba pulling Navas narrow into the box, with Mercado being sucked in by Coutinho, there's always space in that left channel, whereas on the right, it wasn't the case because Proms would stick to Sermetto. You'd have Messi pull over, but Vidal was occupying that space that Wilbur was at. So there were two players pulling defenders out of position. They had it there. They were able to make it work. A moment of Messi brilliance, and that was how they were able to get going. They did have a lot of close chances, so we'll get to one where we did see Umtiti fought again. Umtiti's able to split the forwards, and who does he find? He finds Coutinho dropping off and pulling out Banega before spinning him with ease and pushing forward, and then we have Rogue try to come across, and he slides the ball to Messi breaking forward. And as Messi breaks forward, Messi is trying to now play the pass in between Wilbur, and he plays a pass in between Wilbur and Sergio Gomez for Suarez breaking free. But the pass is a bit too heavy, and we have Vlasic come off his line, and Suarez has to pull back and retreat before coming forward and firing a cross shot that goes wide of the net. We break things down as a whole. Yes, Barcelona struggled based off the way that their players were positioned and the movements that they were making into areas that were occupied, but they were able to find passes in between the midfielders and the wide players, and that's how they're able to really find their feet into advanced areas, but they lack the quality to finish those chances, and that's very rare from them. But they were able to kind of capitalize off an error or structural error that they were able to pull out of Sevilla, and they probably should have done it more often. So now let's get to the second half, see what changes Barcelona made and how they were able to see off Sevilla. The second half saw Barcelona make immediate changes. Sergio Roberto came on for Semedo at right back. Dembele came on for Vidal. Barca moved to more of a 4-2-3-1 with Messi playing in behind Luis Suarez. But we didn't see much change on what players were trying to do. Coutinho was still trying to drop off, and frankly, it was pretty much anonymous throughout that second half. And Dembele was doing the same thing. But with Dembele, he was always able to turn opponents, and his pace often frightened the Sevilla midfield and backline. Instantly, he forced Rogue into a booking by picking up the ball and driving forward. They had no answer to pick him up. Rakitic shortly after that found him in the right channel, and he was able to run at Sergio Gomez. Sergio Gomez somehow matched him pace for stride based off the fact that Dembele's touches weren't that great, and he was able to evade him there. But it just goes to show what he offers different. He's able to stretch the play. Unfortunately, sometimes we see him play a bit too narrow, but his pace does offer Barcelona something different because they don't have that with that initial starting lineup that they played to start the game. But we also look at the fact that he also was involved in goal-scoring opportunities. We saw Alba intercept a pass from Rogue, and it fell to Coutinho, who found Messi centrally, and he located he located Suarez running off Gomez to drag him out to the left channel. And what happened there was that his cross into the box for Dembele as Kjaer came across fell to Dembele breaking in, but Navas offered enough of a presence to force Dembele to skew his shot, and he wasn't able to test the goalkeeper. But that just goes to show him breaking into the box, his pace offering Sevilla more of a license to drop off a bit deeper than Vidal was, and that was a big issue for them. We eventually saw Sevilla make some changes. We saw Vasquez come on for Mercado, which pushed Jesus Navas back to right back. Eventually after that, Wolber had to come off for Amadou, and that was a straight swap because Wolber was hurt. But the final change that really changed things was, although Sarabia did move to the right side and Vasquez moved central, they brought on Roque, and with Roque come on, they eventually moved to a 3-5-2 with Vasquez, Banega, and they had with Vasquez, Banega, and Roque in midfield. They pushed Promes to the left wing back role, and eventually they dropped Amadou to a right center back. So that's how they're going about that, kind of to combat with Barcelona's four attackers. But Barcelona's threat wasn't really assembled through the system change, and again, it was simply Dembele who was offering them a threat. Ter Stegen clipping the ball out to the left channel, and Amadou tracks him there, and Dembele is able to turn him and beat him for pace and eventually shrug him off to the byline. But his cross in left half space eventually evaded everyone, but Messi was able to pick it up, and Messi was able to go 1v1 with Banega and curl an effort inches over the net. Messi had another opportunity at the edge of the box where he forced Vlačić into a save, but eventually we saw Barcelona again change their system, move back to a 4-3-3. Aliena came on for Coutinho, and then we had Dembele out wide left. We had Messi in a narrow right position, and then you still had the 4-3-3 there. But what we saw different from Barcelona was Dembele's pace. We saw that Sergio Roberto was a bit narrow, and then we saw Jordi Alba still being able to push forward, and the 3-5-2 was just to assemble a 3-5-2 was able to assemble that they were able to match up in midfield and have an additional man marker in case Barcelona's front four were able to create chances. But the build up to the goal is just very simple here. It's just simply Messi stepping forward, Vlačić clipping the ball out to Rakitic, and now everyone is behind the play. Rakitic runs at the back three and Banega, and he slides the ball out to Dembele, and Messi is unmarked breaking towards the box. Roque tracks it late, and he's able to curl a superb effort past the keeper. That was how they leveled up the game. The third goal, just great play from Aliena and Sergio Roberto down the right-hand side. Sevilla were unable to really cope with that. Messi was able to pounce off a deflected effort to chip Vlačić, and then to kill off the game, Messi again, header won by Aliena to Messi in a pocket of space, clips it over the defense for Suarez, and he chips the keeper. But when we break down the game as a whole, we saw Barcelona make the tactical change, but really it was about Dembele just offering a bit more pace, a bit more of a direct threat, and that kind of changed the game for Sevilla. They made the tactical changes, but Barcelona change to a 4-2-3-1 didn't really affect the game. So the changes to make those changes at that point was a bit of a risk, and it didn't pay off. And eventually Messi's brilliance combined with some of the subs combining helped Barcelona build a 10-point lead at the top of the table. But let me know what you guys think. Have Barcelona officially won the title here? Can anyone catch them? And what about Sevilla? Will they finish in the top four? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.